Welcome to Mastering the Art of Real Estate. I'm your host, Debbi DiMaggio, and we are here today with Nathaniel Getzels. He is here from Calabasas, Los Angeles, and I am coming to you live from San Jose del Cabo and Cabo San Lucas. Let's welcome Nathaniel in. Hello,
Hello.
Nathaniel.
Hello.
How are you?
Wow, that was such a cool intro video. I'm like, oh, I want to know her. Oh wait, I do know her. That's so fun.
I know. I'm so
I am
excited.
great.
I'm so excited to have you here. And I want to tell people how I know you. We've never met in person like most of my guests. I've probably met five of the guests. I've probably known just five of the guests I've had over the year and a half. And I love to interview people cold because I'm just so curious. We've talked a little bit and I know a little bit about you, but I'm so excited to delve into it. So let me properly introduce you. Oh, I wanted to say how we met. We met on a mastermind, and I really love our mastermind. I think we might have, if I'm not mistaken, about 121 people on the mastermind, and it's I think twice a month, and it's agents from all different companies, and what's so great about it is that what I believe is we are colleagues, not competitors, and it just really shines in that group. Someone asks for a referral, I say I got one, or people are of all companies are all sharing all of their sage advice, and sharing their documents and disclosures and how they curate an open house. And that's what I love about my podcast. We're from different companies and we just share. So with that, let me introduce you properly. Nathaniel Getzels of the Getzels Group. He is the founder. He's from Calabasas, Los Angeles. He is an acclaimed real estate expert and the dynamic founder of Getzels Group, now part of Coldwell Banker Realty, specializing in luxury properties. With over 2 decades in the industry, Nathaniel's influence extends far beyond California. Under his visionary leadership, Getzels Group has become a top producing real estate team, consistently delivering outstanding results and redefining the luxury market. Leadership and achievements. Nathaniel's career is marked by relentless drive and a passion for community involvement. His strategic leadership has propelled Getzels Group to new heights, ensuring they remain at the forefront of luxury real estate. His ability to cultivate a high-performing team reflects his commitment to excellence and innovation. His deep understanding of market trends, clients' needs, and the intricacies of luxury property transactions has enabled him to navigate the complexities of the real estate market, providing clients with unparalleled results. Nathaniel's influence extends beyond traditional real estate ventures. As an advisor to Quantum Real Estate, a company specializing in fractional ownership, and a board member for Hosty, which is focusing on short-term rentals. He demonstrates a commitment to exploring innovative solutions within the real estate industry. Those roles highlight his versatility and forward-thinking approach. His contributions are not limited to his professional endeavors. Nathaniel is deeply committed to community involvement, actively supporting educational institutions and nonprofits. His belief in giving back to the community is evident through his board memberships and various charitable activities. This community-first mindset drives him to ask, what can I bring to this interaction rather than what can I take? And that's where I wanted to end your wonderful bio, because that is exactly who you are, and I love that. So as I said, we met on our mastermind group, and how I always like to begin the conversation is I'm very visual and I like to start at the beginning. So I'd love to hear after how you got into real estate, where you grew up, and then if you went to college, and after college, how your journey led you to where you are today in real estate.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you. What a amazing introduction. I need to hang out with you even more. That was lovely. Yeah. I even forgot half
Thank you.
that stuff that I do.
I know, right?
So I'm happy to share that. I got into real estate because I had taught in every level of school from preschool administrator through college professor. And so, I worked as a behavior therapist. I'd done everything in the educational space that you could pretty much do. And then I was finishing my master's thesis, and I had done more research than a lot of the professors actually had done at that point, because I've just been, when I do something, I just go all into it. and I'd been around the world presenting research. And, I think I had like a 4.0 GPA at the time. And I was like, I'm looking at all these pre-job offers that I was kind of getting, and people are like, oh, we want to have you involved here. We want to have you involved there. And I sat back for a minute and went, I'd rather die than do any of these things on a long-term basis. It was no longer interesting. I think it was a combination of things, but one of them is, I think like the education system at its core is broken, which I had to go super deep to figure out. They teach you to work hard, you should work smart. They teach you not to copy, you should definitely copy success. Get
Right.
out of debt, you should leverage your debt. There's no financial education whatsoever, so a lot of people, they get out of school and just are in debt forever. Um, there's a lot of the core things that school teaches you. You should work hard, but you should work smart. Like there's all these things that I just felt like at its core, I felt like originally if I could just keep going deep enough, I could find where it would work, but it just never aligned really fully. So I sat back and for 4 days I went, okay, well, what do I love doing? What is going to get me excited about getting out of bed in the morning? My dirty little secret in college is I'd pop open my laptop and I'd surf Zillow for hours, hours. And you know, I had taken all these classes about like how real estate works and the psychology of real estate and where people move and why they move. And back then Zillow was like brand new. It was like this new wild thing. So I would just surf it. And I didn't think about it, but I had been investing in real estate basically because I was cheap and I didn't want to pay rent. So we bought a place and then, rented the other room and blah, blah, blah. But I had never really
Nice.
thought about real estate uh, as a career. So I sat back and I went, okay, I still want to help people, and you can help people on an extremely high level with one of the largest or a very large financial choice. Um, I was fascinated with the real estate industry, with houses, with how cities grow, the psychology behind it. So there was that part of it. And I did always love the idea of having my own business. Now, that isn't, I want to make my own hours. I watched my dad, he had his own business as well. So I knew what it meant, but there's something about that like constant grind that attracted me to it for some reason. So I sat still for 4 days and then I literally changed every single thing I had worked for in my life. And I dropped everything and went straight into real estate and never turned back.
Wow, that's impressive. I was going to say a lot of people, interestingly, who started and who got into real estate were prior educators and teachers. What is it about that? It's because most of them seem to have that I've interviewed so far have come from being in education.
Well, I think, there's a few similar tenets to it. It's you're still educating your clients because we're not salespeople. We're a service. We're a service industry.
Absolutely.
We're helping people reach their goals through education, guidance, support, which is a lot of things that teachers provide as well. So as far as that goes, that part's the same. You're used to working for thankless hours, so that part's the same. In
Right.
essence.
Yeah.
It's both are rough, but in different ways, right?
Right.
So that
Yes.
there's that similarity. And then a lot of it's still helping people at the core of it. Like you want to
Right.
help people grow and reach their goals. And so that at the core is the same, which is one of the things I was initially attracted to as well. I think people come into real estate for one of two main backgrounds, either like a helping profession or a very hard financial background. Now, the
Hmm.
hard financial background, I think they thrive more in like the commercial space, which is a lot less emotion and personal,
Yes.
right? Some people
Absolutely.
they do fine, like they work with investors or something like that in the residential space as well. But for the most part, I think the people that are going, a lot of people make a joke like, "Oh, you're a real estate agent and a therapist because you have to so much has to do with that human side."
Absolutely. No, you definitely there. That's exactly true. You could be like, I have a partner. She's one of our business partners, and she is very financially, that's how she came from a financing side. And I always let, I'm very into signs, and I'm a Cancer, let's say, and I am a Cancer, and she's an Aries, but she very much. And when I went on a listing presentation with her, I was like, wow, I would have signed with you too. She was throwing out all these numbers, and she was just had such conviction. I'm very different. I'm more like you. I'm the helping side. I'm more of, it's I always say my mother side comes out. I want to take care of my clients. I want to help them. I want to make them understand. And so it is two different. And yes, definitely people who are really into the number side of things and they don't want the emotional or the helping, it's definitely commercial for them. And that side was not for me. But yeah, I could totally see that about how teachers know, because so many of them have come into it that way. So I always, in this podcast, when I started out, I didn't really think about it, but later I realized in a lot of my writing, I always talk to my 25-year-old self. When I was 25, I was kind of in that position. I went to Cal and I was like, now I should have some great job, but I didn't know what that great job should be. And I knew I didn't want to go into real estate because my dad was in real estate and he was always tied to the phone. Well, of course, looking back, there were no cell phones, there was no internet, there was no Wi-Fi, there was no, DocuSign and all of that. So I wrote down, kind of like in your 4 day of thinking, your 4 days off, I wrote down what I wanted to do. I didn't know that it was real estate. I said, I want to meet new people all the time. I'm very curious. I want to help people. I want something with a beginning, a middle, and an end. I wanted there to be completion. Unlike, let's say, commercial real estate, that could go on for years. And in real estate, it does translate into that, usually beginning, middle, and an end. Meeting people from different cultures. I wanted homework. I wanted it part of my life. I didn't want to have a 9 to 5. And so it kind of later on, this real estate manifested later down the road. And in talking to my 25-year-old self, are you talking to your 25-year-old self or a new agent coming into the business? What are 5 things you can share with them? Many of these agents spend more time getting their license than really know about what is real estate and how hard it is. And I'm on vacation now, and I've been working nonstop, which is fine because I love it. That's how I like to live my life. But what would you tell? Give me 5 things you tell a new agent coming into the business.
Oh yeah, and that's, it's something I do every day also because I have a team and some of them are new agents. So, you know, um, it's something that comes up often and it's different for different people. But I think one of the things is the mindset is so important, right? Because so I always ask like why they're involved in real estate, that sort of thing. And so you know, one of the things is like, do you have the mindset of wanting to sell houses, or do you have the mindset of needing to sell houses? And I don't mean from a scarcity point. I mean like you do want to have an abundant mindset, like there's more business and that
Right.
sort of thing. But what I mean is, um, what I mean is, if you are if you want something, right, then you'll do it. You'll work hard. You'll take some licks on it, but ultimately you'll do it when it's convenient for the most
Mm-hmm.
part. But the difference is if you need it. If you need it, you're going to do whatever is physically possible. Like unless you are physically disabled, you are going to get to that goal if you need to get to that goal, right?
Absolutely.
You know,
Yes.
so so that's the
Uh,
first thing is I'm like, do you want this or do you have a mindset of needing to do it? And that's the difference between a high performer and a low performer is that
right.
needing versus wanting, right?
Right.
So that's the first thing. And then, you know, uh, another important part is you have to be ready to fail and fail a lot and fail hard and
Mhm.
fail fast and then
Right.
get up and do it again. It's not about not failing. It's about being resilient and getting back up and fighting the next day, right? Because
Absolutely.
like yeah, it's a contact sport. Some days I feel like every direction whether it's my team, whether it's my clients, whether it's the approach, like the other side of the transaction, just it's coming at you from every direction. And if you can't take that, this is not the world for you,
Exactly. We're
right?
jugglers. We're constantly juggling and we're constantly squeezing things in. I call came in the other day and at the same time an emergency call was coming in and you have to be able to pivot and adjust. I do always equate everything for some reason to sports and I'm not an athlete per se, but you have to pivot on adjust on a moment, on a dime and do you mind if I call you right back? I've got to take this call. There's a massive leak. They just drove into their garage. Can I get someone for them? I mean, I answered the phone. I happened to answer the phone right on. I heard the message going to voicemail and I picked up the phone and they had come into their garage and there was a leak. So they've been living in their house for a while, but I called 3 people. I got someone there within 15 minutes, but that's how we have to be. You know that, I know that, but the newer agents are, when they say, well, I can't do that. And this is my schedule. And I'm like, well, what are they doing between 12 and 1? Do they think they're going to eat lunch?
Right. Like, what do you think is yeah, what do you think is going to happen in there? Because it's going to be some sort of crisis you have to deal with,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just do it on the run. So, anything else you would tell, or, you have a team. So give us some pointers. I'm just now building a team. Adam and I, after 35 years, we're starting to bring a few people on. What would you tell me or other people who have teams and how do you work with your team and guide your team?
Oh yeah. Well, for team wise, and that's also something else I talk with them about is like, yes, this the industry is this exactly the same every day and completely different every moment. So you
Exactly.
have to be ready for all of that, right? Like,
So true.
between new innovations and the changes in legal things, the laws and the market. Yes, your job, it's kind of, you can look at it two ways. Your job's to bale hay, you're the farmer.
I
And
love it.
so no matter what the market does, you're baling the hay. And as long as you're baling the hay, you're fine. But who's buying the hay? How long does it take to cook the hay, to grow the hay? How hot is it? All these things are constantly changing. So while you're baling the hay and it's the same every day, everything you do around baling that hay is different every day, right?
That is
So you have to
exact.
be, yeah. So you have to be, on top of it. Otherwise, you're going to be left in the dust, right? So
Absolutely.
that's a part of it. It's for the team. I think it's really important both for a team lead and a team member to. Sorry, I was watching condensation go through a piece of paper in front of me and it was driving me crazy. But um, so for a team though, I think it's really important to understand what the team structure is and what the goals are and what you want to get out of the team and what the team wants to get out of you, right?
Good.
Because there's all these different types of teams, right? There's the Rainmaker
Yes.
team where you basically, it's like a triangle. Everybody depends on that top the top agent or agents to provide leads, and whether that's a Zillow team or the team lead just has a bunch of their own leads that they're raining down. You basically are depending on that team lead, and if that team lead goes away, you're basically done, right? Then there's like a family style team where everybody shares everything, and that's usually only really works out long term if you're actually related, because
Right. Right.
if you're all sharing everything, there's a lot of feelings that just get involved, let's just say. Then
Yeah.
there's another kind of team where everybody's set up where it's like you're the buyer's agent, you're the seller's agent, you handle the transactions. So there's that kind of team as well. So, but a lot of agents don't want that, or maybe they do. Some are buyer's agents and they're great with that. But so you have to understand first, and a lot of teams don't understand what their team style or what their format is. So then if you don't know what you are and you're bringing people in, it's impossible for them to know what to expect and what they're going to get or be happy, because it's probably going to be constantly changing,
Right. It
right?
does.
So,
Yeah, I would agree. Probably after my guess is when I started kind of a counseling session with you or a coaching session. So as I brought this brand new agent in, I said, so for the first year, I'm going to be coaching you. And so you're going to be coached by Adam, myself, our son, who's now been with us. And so I anticipate the first year will be a lot of coaching and hopefully a few sales under her belt, and then we'll reevaluate and maybe we'll pivot into a different way. But with a new agent, there's, as you know, there's so much coaching that goes into it because what you learn in the real estate test has nothing to do with real life.
Nothing at all. The test has nothing to do with real life, and the class to take the test has almost nothing to do with the test. Each thing, it's really just like a hoop. So like one of the things I do is I have new team members read a book
Mhm.
before they interview with us. And that A, it is a hoop, but B, it also gives us something to talk about and,
Right.
kind of figures out like if, what resonates with them and what doesn't resonate with them and all that sort of good stuff. So it kind of sets a stage and a framework. But if so, like there's a few things that eliminate so many people. It is astounding to me. I ask
Hmm.
for a resume, which that alone, people just stare at me with their mouth open half the time. Like, what? I'm like, you're not a shot. You've done something. Like, how to do a
Right.
resume. Like, let's just do a resume, and then a letter explaining why they're going to be a good team member, and
Ooh, I
what they
like that.
want from the team,
I
right?
like that. Yes.
Because like everybody, I think a lot of people, especially now in this world where it may sound horrible, but I feel like a lot of people, especially who are like coming into the job space now, like they
Hmm.
went into Instagram one day and they never came out.
Right.
I had a
So true.
guy who was, yeah, I had a guy, he was like, oh, well, man, I'm here. And this is a job interview, remember? I mean, we're independent contractors, but in essence, it's a job interview. And he goes, yeah,
Right.
man, I'm not really like worried about making money. I just want to be somewhere that has like good vibes. And I'm like, well, I like working with people I like too, but good vibes don't pay the bills. So if I just wanted to feel good, I'd go hang out on the beach. Like I live in LA, Malibu, 10 minutes away. Like I'd be in Malibu all day on the beach, like relaxing. So there's got to be a balance here, and a
Right.
lot of these, like, I don't know. It's like, I just want to feel good. I want to be healthy. I'm like, yeah, yeah, that's good stuff. But you need to have the other part of life too. That's just, it's literally like I was watching somebody's Instagram and I just decided that's my life. That's all that's important. But, Instagram, it doesn't show the hard work. It doesn't
No.
show the grinding. It doesn't show getting up early or staying up late or working hard or when things don't work out. It just shows the beautiful parts.
Right.
And I
Because
feel
it
like
would
some
be
people
so
are just
ugly to
living.
show the ugly stuff online. It was like, that's not very visual. But yes, it
Right,
does not
right.
show
Well,
all
it's
of
like my
that.
friend years ago, he goes, I get why there's pretty people on TV because
Yeah,
I want that aspirational life and I can go outside for the rest.
exactly. No,
So,
it's true. I
I
love
get
that.
I get why Instagram's there, but I feel like when people are coming in for to start working in a real world,
Right.
they're like confused. They think everything's sort of like Instagram now.
Right. I
Certain
think
people, not everybody.
I'm right, of course. I'm really bad at work as my husband and I and our team practices real estate. That's what we do every day, but we're also part owners in the company. And I am not a person to hire people because anyone comes to the door, I'm like, oh, we should include them and stuff. I'm very
Right.
inclusive like that. So I pretty much fired myself from trying to bring people in because then I brought, people who are kind of like I want to be on Instagram or it's just pretty. I want to go to open houses and be on, $1 million listing and stuff. And so I was like, okay, I was bringing someone into our team. And so I said, okay, go interview before you even, you come to the company. Why don't you go interview with other agencies and get their vibe, see how they feel, talk to them about what's important to you, and then come back. So, and this was before she got her license. So she did that circuit. And then I said, well, why don't you get your license and then we can talk and decide if you want to do it on your own or be part of our team. And I said, do open houses with different agents, get to feel everyone's vibe. So, and then spent a lot of time when she decided she wanted to work with us, spent a lot of time writing out, kind of trying to get organized on how I would help. And what I just wrote down, so for the people who are putting together teams, whether it's in real estate or anything else, I like this podcast, think liken it to anyone with a service product or brand who's building a business, whether it's real estate or anything. But I love the idea. I think we as real estate agents and leaders, we're so used to giving because that's what we do for our clients. We're always giving, and that's just our nature, and that's who we are. That's why we're in the business. We couldn't do it if we didn't have that giving nature. But I really love
Right.
what you said, so I just want to highlight it again, is that you ask them to do the work. A resume, put a resume together, even if they did it on AI, just fill it out, do it. But you're making them do work. You're trying to get them, like the guy who came in and wanted good vibes, he probably didn't put that resume together. So the resume, and then why do you want to be part of the team? What will you give the team, and what would you like from the team? And what do you think? I think the other, and what do you think real estate is? Because
Right.
I don't, people are, yeah, there's a lot of beautiful imagery on Instagram. I love that. But that's not as we know what it is. So thank you for that. I really love it. So let's take a commercial break, and we'll be right back with Nathaniel from the Calabasas, Malibu, LA area. Thank you. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Mastering the Art of Real Estate. I'm your host, Debbie DiMaggio. We are here with Nathaniel. Nathaniel, so tell us about, I'm visual, and I love your area. So tell us about who are the buyers coming into your area, and who are their anchor companies? Where are these buyers coming from, and how do they end up in your area? And kind of tell us your area and what that looks like and what areas you cover, so we don't leave anything out of your business.
Oh, that's a big question. I have to tell you, may have just opened a can of worms there.
I
We
know.
have, we're based here in Calabasas, um, but like I was in Santa Barbara yesterday. We have a vineyard in Temecula. The majority
Wow.
of the business is here in LA. Malibu, LA, Calabasas, Woodland Hills, Agora, Tarzana, Encino, um, Beverly Hills, Bel Air, Sherman Oaks, Brentwood. Like most of it's
Wow.
based here in LA.
Okay.
I like to say I always kind of felt like geographic farming. I mean, I have people that do it on my team and they're very good at it. But for
Mhm.
me, I have years ago when I started, I went, what resonates with me was social farming.
Mhm.
So for me, I just, I have a very unique social group of humans in my life. And so that is, I kind of go where they take me, if you will.
Okay.
The majority of the business is based here in LA, in the San Fernando Valley or the west side of Los Angeles, or like southern Ventura County for the most part. And it's interesting because I know you have people listening from all over, but probably, you're going to know a lot of those names because they're kind of the entertainment industries here, and they're kind of international destinations.
Right.
So, and California got some bad press during the pandemic because it said, oh, all these people are leaving, it's this mass exodus, etc., whatever. But the thing is, you have to always, what I learned when I was in education is whenever you see a statistic, you have to figure out what what's going into it, because a lot of statistics are just as valid as whatever's on Wikipedia, realistically, because you can use, like, I've been published in multiple scholarly journals, and I can make any numbers be scientifically valid and say whatever I
Mhm.
want. So
That's
the thing to understand about what happened during the pandemic is there's always a big out migration in California, but there's also usually a huge in migration, right?
Mhm.
And so during the pandemic, that is what was stalled, which is why it looked like all these people were leaving.
Right.
But because the normal people were leaving, just the people weren't coming in as fast. But so LA in general still has a kind of a weird reputation as far as like people in and out. But You have a lot of international people coming here, a lot of people from Northern California, from New York City, from Chicago, even from Denver. So a lot of the other like city hubs and high end, high producing, economic drivers are coming to Los Angeles, both internationally and nationally. And then also, you still have a lot of the entertainment industries here. So we have a lot of musicians, actors, directors. A lot of our clients are in that celebrities field. Um, so it is becoming a more and more high end city overall.
Very much.
Especially the parts we sell in. And there, you see a lot of people buy 4 or 5 homes now, actually, as well. So it's an interesting population. You have a lot of families, the lifestyle, a lot of jobs. All the studios are still here, so that's good. Amazon is here, the Amazon studios. So you have a lot of tech, a lot of entertainment, and actually a lot of energy companies are here as well. And then still huge aerospace as well. So,
Oh, right.
there's a lot of industries. It's a little bit different than like up north where it's much more tech based. But here we even have Silicon Beach, right? So
Right.
it's
Yeah,
something
it's true.
that's interesting. I think a lot of people forget about is so years ago I was studying where businesses move and why they move different places. So let's just say you have two businesses that are, let's just use tech as an example. Okay, they're both tech businesses, they're both startups. They both pay relatively the same amount of money. You have a relatively same amount of upward mobility, right?
Hmm.
And the majority of your startup employees are going to be 25 to 37, let's say. Okay.
Hmm.
Now you have, and now, let's say it's more of a defense tech because they have to be in the office too. You have to be
Okay.
on site for that, right?
Hmm.
So, and now you say, okay, our business, we can look at going to New Jersey. We can look at going to, let's say, Kansas, or we could go to Los Angeles, Marina Del Rey. Now, let's just look at those as a 25 to 37-year-old, right? Where are they going to be attracted to move to? And then me as a business owner, I'm going to go, hmm, I want to get that other staff. Like I want the best staff. So now
Hmm.
I can't pay them more. My benefits are the same, but I can be in LA and I can offer them to live in LA, right? So there's a lot of good reasons people still want to be in Los Angeles, in city centers. Especially the high end market here is, excuse the pun, but on fire. Like above 5 million and above is hot,
So tell us
and
about
it's
that.
because
Yeah, let's talk about that, especially right now. And, I am seeing coming through the email price reduced. On the other hand, you'll see houses having multiple offers. So I know you have some really beautiful developments right now, which are homes I want you to share. But tell us about the market right now, where we are in May of 2025. And you just had the fires. So are people moving out after the fires? We're in a time now where the rates are high and the economy and political situation is uneasy. So do talk more about that high end market and what high end is, because we're in LA is different from high end somewhere else. So describe that to our guests.
right. Well, you have your luxury and ultra luxury. So luxury is like really 5 million plus, but we're going to talk about it like it's 3 million plus, 3 million to 10 million, and above 10 million's like considered ultra luxury. Even though there's many other like subsets through there,
All right.
50 million plus, things like that. But it's interesting because there's a lot of um, wealthier owners who are diversifying now. So you're seeing some of these trophy properties. pop on the market, and the investors are more from international or like tech hubs like San Francisco. San Francisco and Seattle are actually the some of the top two feeder markets for Los Angeles right now,
Interesting.
which is interesting, because I forget Seattle's even up there sometimes.
Me too. I'm sorry. I don't like the dreary weather. But I guess it's
It's a
because
little cold.
LA is the place to go. If you want to have a showy home, I mean, not all these other areas have these. If you want weather and you want lifestyle, that's where you go. LA to enjoy all of those things. I know I commute to LA, my little 50-minute flight back and forth to Northern California. I love it down there. It's amazing. What I also learned, just to piggyback real quick, was that when we were talking about who lives in LA and what's so great about it, it's so international. So you guys have buyers coming from everywhere, which when we're trying to sell houses in Northern California, where I practice out in the East Bay, it's not very international. We've got families coming, or couples coming in from San Francisco across the bridge to get settled in the suburbs a little bit, but it's not very international. And you guys, people come from all over. But what I did notice too, as I was trying to break into LA a little bit, a lot of the people and agents, clients and agents, are from there. They grew up there. And so I noticed a lot of agents, a lot of those top agents are from there. Where did you grow up?
I actually did grow up in LA as well. I grew up.
Okay.
I know I totally cheated. I totally cheated. Sometimes in life, what I learned is like, in general, you want to choose the harder path, because that way, when things are hard, when when you're used to things being hard, and then things when you've voluntarily had things hard, then when they're involuntarily hard, you can handle them easily. But in this
Right.
case, I definitely cheated. I took the easier way. I live here. I grew up here,
I'm really trying
but
to
I
break
choose the
into
hardest way every other way. Yeah.
that. All right. So, okay. So now, we've got Seattle, San Francisco. They're coming, wealthier, the ultra
Yeah. Well,
wealthy coming down there to buy a showcase house. And I noticed a lot of these people are single men buying these huge houses. It seems. Is that
yes,
right?
that's absolutely accurate. And it's a second, third house. Sometimes it's a
Yeah.
great place to come meet people.
Right.
LA. So money. I know people always say money doesn't buy you happiness, but it definitely buys you options. And so when
That's
you have the options,
yeah.
there's a reason people come here. There's a lifestyle. There's a lot. It's a hub for luxury in the world. And then when you have all those options, you can come here, and then it's one of the safer places, because why do people invest in real estate? Let's just look at the core of it. It hedges inflation. It's a
Mhm.
safe investment. It's less volatile. And, like we've seen a lot of cities recently in LA or in the US have big booms, but now they're having big drops too, especially some of the hottest places to have moved to and from, right?
Right.
Um, so, LA doesn't really have that volatility. So
Hmm.
it's a really smart investment for somebody who wants to be able to touch, insure, live in, or lick their investment. You're not doing
Hmm.
that with a stock or crypto, but
Right.
with a house, and it's a great place to diversify and put your money. And actually, a lot of these trophy properties, you know, when they um, when they trade, it's almost like against what common thought process would be. It almost seems like it's backwards, but it's because when you're switching that kind of money, it's for a different reason. It's not like, oh, I'm going to go move in and buy it at a great price, right? It's, oh, I
Right.
need to change, diversify this portfolio, or I want to move it there, and I want to leverage the capital gains here. So,
Right.
it's even though you're buying a house or a residence or whatever, a lot of the thought process and the psychology behind it is different, which is one of the difference between high net worth buyers and sellers. And there's actually that's a space that's really interesting right now, changing
That
a
is
lot.
very. That is so interesting what you said, because the typical home buyer, they're buying a house, they want to know, okay, I'm going to buy it and will it appreciate? Am I going to lose money? They're not thinking about what you just said. You're talking about 1031 exchanges and leveraging money and leveraging your portfolio, a very different mindset. That's very interesting. I don't really think of it that often because that's not our market.
Well, think about it. There's only, if you want to protect, let's just say, I was looking at a house yesterday, and let's just say you want to protect a $50 million investment, right?
Mm-hmm.
A $50 million asset. Well, how many ways can you insure it? How many ways can you protect it, hedge inflation on it? How many ways can you go touch it? You know, there you do have a couple options, but real estate's a really good one, and especially if you do it in a way where you're building your cash on cash as well, and the equity builds good, and the it's protected, then you could outpace the markets if you do it right, and you've been insured the whole time, and you've been able to take mortgages or loan out against it, because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of portfolios are leveraged, and leveraging that property is the key, because you're not getting taxed on a liability, you're only getting taxed on your assets. So if you can turn an asset to a liability but then take the cash and repurpose that money,
Right.
it's a really smart way to move your money around and also save on taxes. So that owning that property could pay for itself. I mean, look at what happens with a lot of these commercial properties.
Mm-hmm.
They don't lower. You ever looked at one of these big commercial buildings and gone, why is it sitting there empty? They could just lower the rent,
Right.
right?
Right.
Right. But it's because you get your loan based on your pro forma. So if I lower the rent, I can't borrow as much money against that property. And maybe my property's empty, but maybe I have a $2 million invested over there that I'm getting 30% on. So I don't really wait. I can wait till the cows come home to rent, to put a renter in there.
Wow.
So there's
It's
a lot of things
fascinating.
moving and at play in especially in the luxury real estate market, both commercial and residential. But you know, um, and then like a lot of cash buyers, they're really taking lines of credit, or there's money from other places. So
Mm-hmm.
while you think, oh, you bought it, why would you buy that cash? Or, it's not really cash, it's leveraged over there. Or why would you get a loan on that $50 million house? You have the $50 million, but
Right.
you can repurpose that money and you're making more somewhere else. And now you have, a liability here that you can take a deduction on, and you can invest it into that asset over there. There's a lot of different ways you can play with real estate investments. But yes, because the majority of people are just thinking, how much is my payment, right?
Right.
Like I always tell people, if I could buy a $10 million house but have $1,000 a month payment, I'll buy 10 of them, right? Like
Right.
that's fine. But once the affordability of a property is out the window, or not out the window, but once the affordability isn't the main restraining factor, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of things change. Your lifestyle becomes more important. The
Right.
choices of where to buy, the other options you have to leverage that money comes in. So, and California and Southern California is still one of the best markets in the world to be in. So that's why a lot of people, millionaires and billionaires, choose to be here.
Absolutely.
Anyway, that
No,
was a
it's
long explanation, but
no,
very
it's
short
great.
question.
It was so great though, because we totally talked about something different than the typical home buyer. We talked about, what does that ultra luxury home and why are those people doing it? Now it really helps me understand why these single men are buying these homes. They're not filling it with families. They're buying it. One thing, and maybe you can answer this, that is so aggravating. So I'm in West Hollywood and I look up into the hills and I see this one house, and it could be, I hate to even name him, but it's just they built like the whole top of what the Hollywood Hills, and it looks like they stopped building. Do you know what house I'm talking about? I think it might be Elon Musk's house, if I'm not mistaken. Do you know which house?
Oh,
It's at the very top if you're coming up
yeah, I've seen it.
Crescent, and it's
Hmm.
just sitting there, and they stopped. I heard because he wanted to make it bigger because I believe Bono's house is right below it, and Bono's house is amazing, and it's built into the hillside, and it's beautiful, and it's big, but it's discreet, and it's built in. And then you've got the monstrosity, and I guess this is what I heard, so I don't know if it's true, that Elon didn't get a permit approved, so to build even more, and so he just stopped, and so it's sitting at the top of the hill. And does is there anything that the city can do to push that along, or it's just he's too powerful for anything to be?
There are things the city can do. I think the city's a little distracted right now with a
Yeah,
few other
yeah,
big projects, around the fires and stuff like that. But,
right.
like look at what happened. They had that the big developer who was just building whatever he wanted and then illegally. And then eventually the city came in and said, well, you have to stop. And he didn't stop and they put him in jail.
They did. Oh, I don't know
So
that one. Oh
yeah,
my god.
they actually arrested him off the site and then tore down the house.
And
So
where
if
was that?
that
West
house is
Hollywood.
there, that
Was that
was
Bel
in, I
Air?
believe, I think that was Bel Air. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I did hear about that. And then they got him and put him in jail because because he wasn't doing it to permit and safe, and so they wanted him to tear it down.
Yeah. And they just kept building because he had gotten away with it before because the
Hmm.
city's was kind of, disorganized, if you will.
Right.
And so he had gotten away with it. So they, and then the city said, well, our only real remedy at this point is to physically arrest him.
Wow. Well, at
So
least
eventually what'll happen if they, and most likely those big house, the big one we're talking about, if they stop paying the fines and the fees, then the city will come in and do something. But as long as that I'm sure they're creating fines that are being
right,
paid.
right, right.
I mean, look at Jeff Bezos's house. He pays a fine every month of, I don't remember if it's $1,000 or $10,000 because his bushes are too high. His
Oh my
his
gosh,
his
I didn't know that.
hedges are higher than the limit. So he just pays the fine
Pays the fee.
every month.
I, oh my gosh. And that's kind of what I heard. And again, correct me if I'm wrong. These are just little things I hear. You're not supposed to fly a helicopter in the airspace in LA, but if they do, they just get fined and pay the fine.
Yeah, well,
Private.
the thing is, there's a lot of places you're not supposed to fly a helicopter, but if you're in and out before you get the ticket, you might get away with it. There's a certain hidden community near me where certain
No
celebrities
pun,
are known.
no pun intended.
That's right. That's right.
I gotcha.
And that there's a certain family in there that's known for bringing helicopters in,
Hmm.
landing quickly, putting people on or off of them, and then taking off. And you know, kind of before anybody notices, and they do it
Okay.
all the time. And
I
you
could
know,
guess.
it's interesting because I had a client who he was from Australia and he used to have a helicopter license there, and he goes there. You're able to land and take off from wherever you want with right of the permission of the landowner. It's not a government restriction. It's just if the landowner says it's okay, you can do it. And so he goes, well, we would just take off before the landowner said no.
I guess that's
But
entitlement.
like I have another property that a lot of people do want to put a helipad on, and it's 31 acres.
So
And a
tell us
lot of
about this. Tell
people,
us about this property. Let's talk about it. You have a listing right now?
yes, yes, I have a listing right now. It's in another gated community that's
Okay.
called Bell Canyon. That is also another celebrity studded, guard gated, custom homes uh, property right up from Hidden Hills, actually,
Okay.
near like 5 minutes from, well, maybe 8 minutes from my office here.
Okay.
And so it's the largest property in the entire community. The majority of it's an equestrian community. So there's a, there's an equestrian center. There's trails through the community. They own private few hundred acres where you can go ride your horses or
Wow.
hike. And, there's tennis courts. Like it's a beautiful luxury community. But the majority of the homes they top out at about 3 acres,
Okay.
and they're beautiful, but they're about 3 acres, 2, 3 acres is the majority of the properties. Like if you have 3 acres, you're on a big lot.
Yeah.
So I have one. that is the largest, from what my knowledge, the largest lot in that community. I have to verify, which I haven't, but it's 31 acres. And
31
it's,
acres. Wow.
yeah. So it's really a compound that just happens to be inside this luxury gated community. And, it's triple gated. Most of the properties there, once you're in, it's like this country, like you're in the old style country kind of feel. But this one, it's still triple gated. There's two more gates before you get to the house. The
Wow.
driveway is a quarter of a mile long.
My
And it's
gosh.
also one of the only private houses that has its own fire hydrant. So it
Much.
is a super cool, unique, like unique isn't even, you're not supposed to say unique in real estate. It's like a dirty word,
Tell
but
us
it is
what's
a
on the
one of a
property.
kind.
Yeah.
So it has the house, which is on, I think, 3 acres. That's pretty flat up there. It has
Okay.
360-degree views. It's built in 2019. We actually were going to sell it in 2019, and we had this celebrity beg to live there. Please rent it to me. And so we ended up renting it to her. And then for whatever reason, financial or not, she decided not to buy the property after 4 years. So
Oh,
now we're selling it. But the house was built, it's all made out of steel. The house is
nice.
built out of steel. So there's no like wood to burn really in there.
Good.
Um, all the walls, including the interior ones, are insulated. They're all
Mm,
extra thick. I mean, the thing's like
nice.
a compound in a compound,
Wow.
and it has panic rooms. It has not that you need them because you're so secure up there and private.
Right.
Um, the property, the house, everything about it's custom. Also, it even has these. I think they're 48 by 48 or 46 by 46 custom Imola tiles that took 9 months to bring into the country.
Wow.
It has these M-Tech, really, really pretty M-Tech high-end square hinges on the doors. I think just one of the walls in the kitchen, I was told, is a $10,000 wall because it's all mother of pearl.
Wow. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. And this is a developer who just built it on a spec for just to sell, not for anyone specific.
correct. Well, he had that neighborhood is full of celebrities. So he did have a celebrity in mind, and then that celebrity decided to move out of the state.
Hmm.
Um, but so it has extra tall doors, extra wide and extra tall doorways, high ceilings. It's a 1-story, 6,700 square foot house.
I was actually going to ask because older people can live there. Because obviously that brings in, an older, wealthier couple that could live there with the wide hallways, and they can live their whole life there. So that's all
Absolutely.
level. Wow, all level.
Yep. There isn't even transitions. There's nothing to trip on in the entire house. There isn't even transitions between the rooms. Like it's a spectacular property. In fact, it's funny you say that. Right now, it's being shown to a an older gentleman who is a developer who's built houses in Malibu and Bel Air his whole life,
Wow.
and he's looking at it for himself. He goes, "This is one of the best built
Oh,
properties I've ever seen."
I
And
love that.
so he's selling like a $50 million or something like that house in in another city nearby, and he's going to use that money to just buy this cash possibly.
Oh my gosh. So this pool, tennis courts, pickleball, give me some archery. What's on this property?
So funny enough, then there's private trails through the property. There's
Oh,
several big flat areas. It's pretty much a private mountain
hmm.
that has these big several acre flat areas around it. So there's um, you go up the driveway and then there's about 4 acres that's flat. That's the first stop. There's nothing built on those right now, so you could put tennis courts, a pool, a guest house, a barn. I think you can have 45 horses on this property.
Wow. That's incredible.
Is it 45? I think it's 45. Might be more, but at least 45 horses on the property. Um, it's a beautiful. So you have that landing, and then it goes up to another section where that's where the main house is. That's then another gate that you go through, and it's a huge flat area. That area is actually right now it's a beautiful patio, outdoor barbecues, views forever. Um, and it's plumbed and electrical and soils and renderings are done for a pool, but they didn't build a pool because everybody, if you're buying that kind of property in that kind of neighborhood, you're going to want a custom pool. So the
Right.
idea is that somebody's going to come in and build the pool of their dreams, and
Right.
it's going to be exactly what they want. So that's why the pool isn't built yet, funny enough.
Okay.
And the
And
last person who lived there didn't want a pool. So
what's the price of this home? This
the
property?
price actually, it's only $6 million,
Wow.
which is a heck
Gosh,
of a
that
deal. 31 acres, and funny enough, it also has two original Ruben Rojas love walls. Have you ever seen those? It's these art pieces
Oh,
that's like
yes.
love,
Oh,
walls
oh,
of
of
love.
course.
Yeah.
I see them all over LA, right? The little
Yes.
hearts. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I have so many
It's
photos
love,
on
love, love.
Instagram.
Yeah. And so Ruben Rojas is the artist. And so there's a
Oh,
lot of people that knock him off, but he did two original pieces on the exterior
wow.
wall of this house.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that is
Yeah.
$6 million. All right, I'm gonna go call some people and try to, I mean, all level, and that guy will probably buy it today. That's
They'll probably buy
incredible.
it today, but if not, send somebody down because you're in one of the top feeder markets for our area over here. So,
Oh, that is amazing.
you
So
know,
this is the place who wants to have the helicopter, which would make sense because you're a little bit out there.
yeah, because it's interesting. The front, so the only way in and out of the property or in and out of the community is through LA. But once you get behind the guard gates, you're actually in Ventura County.
Oh, wow. You're already
So
up there. Okay.
yeah, so it's right on the edge. It's right on the edge. And so the idea is because there's these huge flat pads, um, somebody, people want to go, okay, well, I want to put in a helicopter pad, then I can just fly to downtown or to Beverly Hills or to West
Right.
Hollywood. And, instead of it being a 35, 40-minute drive, it's 15 minutes in a helicopter. No
Right.
problem.
So where do you land in West Hollywood? Do you land like on a top of a hotel, or I don't even know where in or in West
Yeah,
Hollywood people are landing.
there's several buildings that have helipads on the top. So you would
Okay.
just go to one of those and then pop down, or you could even use one of the hospitals helipads if they're not
I was,
busy.
right,
But
right. Oh my
yeah, there's
gosh.
a few places that you can pop down in West Hollywood. You'd be surprised. In those hills, there's a few helipads up there because a lot of the helipads, like so this house, they'll let us build a helipad. They'll give us
Hmm.
a permit to build it, but
Wow.
technically it can't be used for residential use. So if there's a fire or there's an emergency, it can be used.
Okay.
And LAFC has the right to put their helicopters down on it if they want to. But you
Okay.
can't like have your
Right.
daily driver helicopter there.
Right. I get it. Can't go. I'm going to go get
Yeah.
my nails done today, so I'm going to hop on down. So how far
Right.
is it? I would assume would it be the Van Nuys Airport would be the private air park for them to, if they're going to drive to fly somewhere? Would it be
Yeah.
Burbank
So
or
it's
Van Nuys?
interesting, Van Nuys is actually um, one of the busiest private airports in the entire country.
Wow.
Yeah. And so Van Nuys would be probably either Van Nuys or there's one up in is that uh,
Ventura.
like near Tahunga, Silmar. There's one in Silmar
Oh,
that's
okay.
up there. It's White Airport, but probably Van Nuys is easier to get to from there. So they would probably go to Van Nuys and just fly from there. But by that point, you might as well just drive the rest of the way.
Right. So we have to wrap it up. So tell us any
Oh yeah,
last.
but
I
we're
mean,
having so much
we have
fun.
so we didn't touch on any of my regular questions. Oh, you know what? Tell me one
Oh,
thing. You
sorry.
in your bio, you said or you talked about a company you're part of, Hotsy. What is that? Tell our guests what Hotsy is.
Oh, Hosty, yeah.
Hosty,
So
Hosty.
or Houselet or Hosty or there's a bunch of names. They have like there's three companies and they kind of like change the names around. But so that's one that actually leverages short-term rentals. So short, and actually now that we're moving more into a midterm rental situation because midterm rentals have a higher return for the owners, and it's less of a headache, and you tend to get a higher like kind of client, meaning not people who just want to come and destroy the house or party, but people who are either professionals or, traveling for work, or they have, business related projects, or they're going to
Looking to
stay in the
buy a
house so they don't
house.
destroy it.
Yeah, or they're looking
Right.
to
Or
buy
they're
a
looking to
house.
buy a house.
So is it like a 3 to 6 months or 1 to something? What's a midterm? What are the
Yes.
months for?
So midterm is 3 to 6 months for the most
Okay.
part.
Okay.
And that's ideal for anybody who's looking to do short-term rentals, because there's a lot of restrictions going around that space, and
Mm-hmm.
anything under 30 days can be a real problem. But if you get
Right.
to, you know, I've heard the most restrictive thing I've ever heard was a 90-day restriction, like a 90-day minimum rental.
Okay.
So, and that company does a few things. It has a database for the rentals themselves also. It has a way that we can maximize the income of the owner for
Mhm.
renting, and it's through a combination of dynamic pricing and using a bunch of AI tools that project the ideal price and the ideal way to market it, and and then they also have some arbitrage models where like they'll come to you and say, you want to rent your place for 5,000 a month? Great. We guarantee you $5,000 a month, but you have to let us rent it out and then make the difference. But for the most part, that company is designed to help owners rent out their properties for the most amount of money possible for midterm rentals, and to kind of manage it. It's like a automated manager, not automated, but it's a streamlined manager.
Got it. Got it. Well, that's great. So it's
Yeah.
another, an elevated, well, a longer term Airbnb or VRBO, but it's more, it can, because I know that Airbnbs there's a lot of rules around, you can't do that. They don't want that shorter. Communities don't want those, 1 night, 2 night, party night sorts of groups coming in. So that's a nice alternative. I like
Yeah.
that. So how do people get a hold of you? What's the best way that we
Oh,
can get a hold of you and your team?
absolutely. So my website, which is getzelsgroup.com, is a great way to get a hold of me. Instagram is another great way. It's either at the Getzels Group or at Nathaniel_Getzels. Um, those are the two best ways to get a hold of me, really. Short of just you're in Calabasas tracking me down. No, don't do that. That's weird. But
They can always call me. I'll put you in touch.
there
now
you
I
go.
got
There you go.
now
Yeah.
I got to get working on that $6 million house. I want to come take a tour. It looks amazing. And thank you for sharing all your amazing wisdom and your time today. And it was so much fun. And I look forward to doing it again soon.
Absolutely. I can't wait. And I can't wait to hear more about your trip when you're back as well. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for having me. It was a pleasure. Everybody's told me you are a master at this, and
Oh,
clearly they were right.
that makes me feel so good. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Tune in each week for another episode of Mastering the Art of Real Estate with host Debbi DiMaggio. Here Fridays, noon Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network. Tune in to where real estate matters matter.